Hi guys, I'm all suited and booted. I've got my shirt on, fancy dress. I'm just back from an awards night with Outlands College, so it's great to get out and award the lads their prizes that they've earned, I was posting pictures there. I got to meet Max Deegan. Deego. He's a really nice guy, so it was really good to see him. And so just, yeah, a lovely fella, and really glad that I got to meet him. Real down to earth, and we were chatting as well about playing for Wanderers RFC. So shout out to them, great club, Wanderers. Um, and I played a few games there, and I wish I'd have played more, to be honest with you, because coaches there liked me, but it was just bad timing, because it was a good club, and I wish I'd stayed there a bit longer. But Max Deegan's a lovely fella, and best of luck, Max. Go strong on Saturday, beat Northampton, get into that final, and hopefully Leinster can take it home. Fingers crossed. Get that monkey off their back, So if they go on to win, be really happy. Just hoping that they can bring back the silverware because we know they're good enough. Just hope that they can do it. And I want to just say something before I start this video. So I posted a bit more rugby content and it's taken off really well. And did an interview there with my mate Chris Stoffel, aka Stoffel, aka Chris, depending on if you're Afrikaans or if you're English, or not Afrikaans, I should say. I like to get it right and I like to make an effort. You can see at the start. Hoe gaan dit met, oh, hoe gaan dit met jou? Yeah, there we go. Or in Dutch, it's hoe gaat het met jou? And I know a bit of Dutch, but Afrikaans is a little bit different. Love the accent, though. It's a great accent. But I want to ask you guys is what content would you like to see? So just saying it, like whatever you'd like to see, let me know in the comments down below. Because I'm looking at growing this channel a bit more, and I'm getting there 400 subscribers, and I'm hoping to reach 500 by the end of the year. If I make more, brilliant. A massive thanks to everybody who has subscribed. I feel like I have to be patient with this and just keep it growing, but it's grown a lot more than I ever thought. I was there thinking, geez, if I make it to 100 subscribers in my first year, I'll be delighted. This channel hasn't even been going a year. And I know some channels blow up, but I'm delighted to have 390 subscribers and a lot of good interactions. So fair play to you guys for reaching out. And I just want to say one thing that there's a lot of shit going on in Ireland at the minute, right? There's a lot of negative stuff going on, and that's not the direction I want this channel to go in. I speak as someone who's proud to be Irish, and I'm not going to ever stop doing that. But it feels like you have to be associated one way or the other. It's like let everybody in, or you're far right talk. And it's like fuck off. You know what I mean? I feel like have pride in your country, look after it, and treat everybody as they come. You know what I mean? It's not everyone is bad one way or the other, but that's what's been happening like for a while now, and I don't want that to be me, and it gives me such a negative fucking feeling seeing all this shit in Ireland at the minute. But I'm a vulnerable person, I'm a mentally ill person. I've got to look after this first and foremost. I've been doing a lot of good stuff, and I don't want that to derail anything. So I'm going to post about problems that are relevant for Ireland, and I'm not going to be posting hate stuff, So like, there's no far right agenda here. You know what I mean? It's a mental health channel. That's why I always intended it to be, and rugby as well is something that I love talking about, and it's a positive thing, and it's something that I've met a lot of good people doing. So I'm going to keep doing that as well. But let me know if there's any direction in particular you think you'd like to see this channel go. Let me know. Apart from telling me, as I've said before, to stop talking and shut up, not going to happen. But if you like anything in particular, just let me know. I've been trying to make a bit more new content, and this video is going to be about the autism series. So we're getting the one very interesting now, and the reason it's interesting is because it's something that I've struggled to come to terms with, right? It's something I really struggle with, and that is my recent diagnosis of BPD traits, and it's a very negative association, that condition. So it's been renamed emotionally unstable personality disorder. But people will still know it as borderline personality disorder. So for the purpose of this video, I'll stick to BPD, borderline. Um, it has a lot of negativity associated with it. A lot. I'd say it's got more stigma than any condition I've heard of. people who are highly emotional, who are manipulative, violent, aggressive. What I think of and what I was made to think of when I heard the condition was crazy ex-girlfriend, someone who was insane. You're not going to cheat on me, are you? Meanwhile, she cheats on him, cutting up clothes and burning things, smashing personal belongings if the boyfriend so much as glances at another girl, and it's such a misrepresented condition. So when I heard that I potentially could have some of that, I thought to myself, fuck that. I don't want to be like that. And I've worked with people as well who were a nightmare to deal with. Like, let me tell you, they were horrific to deal with. And they had BPD and used it as an excuse, um, which is not right. You don't get to use it as an excuse. It's like, I have this condition. So if I snap at you, don't think anything of it. It's just my condition. And it's like, no, you don't get to fucking do that. You know what I mean? Um, and just to state that when I worked like with women, it was mostly worse. They used it as a reason of going, "Oh, I'm just emotional, leave me off," and then claiming I was the bully when I stood up for myself. Because when it's a lad, you can kind of you can argue and I can say you can fight it out, but you can certainly say more, and there's a bit more shame with the lad if he reports you. Um, like if you do say something back, it's kind of like, well, he's a fella, he should be able to take it, but if you raise your voice to a woman in work, it's like, oh my God, he's threatening me. And I've had that shit done, even though I've been treated horrifically in jobs that I've been in and tried to fucking keep it together, which I don't think is fair at all. I think that's fucking disgraceful, and I don't feel the best in work a lot of times. I don't bring my fucking problems in. And I've had some horrendous emotional problems in work where I'm dissociating like fuck, I can't concentrate. I make a mistake. I've done this hand signal, but I'm not there. I'm in so much discomfort that I've just completely split from my body and my mind. The two are not working together at the same time. And you're embarrassed because it takes you longer to react to stuff. You don't take in information as quick. It's almost like you're deaf. And in work, I try not to let my anger get the best of me, and I don't feel like it's properly laid out how often people with BPD can be manipulated, and it's not a one size fits all. There can be some people who are extremely manipulative with the condition, who use and abuse the fact that they've got it to manipulate other people. Like, because people that I worked with, they'd lose their head with me, and I go, "What's up with you? Like, why are you having a go at me?" And they'd be like, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean that. I have borderline personality disorder, so that's why if I seem a bit agitated." And I'm like, "Oh, okay, yeah, no problem." Because I show a bit of empathy. But then there'll be a mood, there'll be, pay attention, like do this, do that. And then like for asking the simplest question, and I'm only new in a lot of these jobs and I'm working with people who I should not be working with, showing me how to do the job. And I'm like, they're not emotionally stable. Like, if they can't be in control of their own emotions, how the fuck can they train me in the job? So I have a very bad introduction to this condition. So believe me when I tell you, I thought that it was, all people with this are crazy. They're manipulative. They're quick to anger. They use the fact that they've got a condition and they weaponize it so that you have to feel bad for them, and there are people like that, 100%, like, I mean, not everyone with this is going to be sweetness and light either. So I just want to state that right now. People with this can be very dangerous, but lots of people can be very dangerous. And I want to get into it and I want to give a bit of personal take on it because I'm still not 100% convinced by my recent diagnosis, I'll be honest with you. But we're going to look at another Venn diagram, which I hope you enjoy. And I feel like it's a good time to discuss it because as I look at it, a lot of the symptoms I have to say do resonate with me. So I'm thinking, could that be autism? And then a fucking shitload of stress, or could it be that there might be something else? Because a lot of people have said they don't accept the diagnosis of borderline personality disorder and they think complex post traumatic stress disorder or CPTSD, um, that could explain it because a lot of the symptoms that you get with borderline, you get with CPTSD, so it's kind of like, could it be that? And if you look back, a lot of people who were diagnosed with borderline end up having a lot of, complex trauma. Trauma that is trauma that you can't necessarily put your finger on. So let's say, for instance, if you fought in Nam, but if you fought in a war, that's called post-traumatic stress disorder because you can put your finger on it. You know exactly why you're traumatized because you saw people getting killed. But if there was constant emotional abuse or manipulation, you can't pinpoint any one specific time. It's like there's too many to count. So which one is it? I think it's just living in stress for far too long, and it's called a stress disorder. So I mean, it's got to have something related to stress, and I think that would explain the intense anxiety. And you know, is it potentially the reason? Is there BPD at all, or is it post-traumatic stress disorder? Complex, that is. I don't know. As I said before, I'm not a psychiatrist. I'm not a doctor. I looked at this and I thought to myself, could I have this as well? And if so, do I have all the good and the bad? You got to take the good with the bad, and there's a lot of bad. I got to be honest, and if it's not negative towards other people, it's negative towards yourself, right? So we're going to get into it. We're going to look at the diagram. So I'm going to share it with you here. We're going to have a look at the overlap with autism, and we're going to see. By the way, another shout out to Leah G, 8010 8010 from Nolans, Louisiana. We were chatting about that, weren't we? You said I got it right. Nolans. Or New Orleans. Some of them just say New Orleans. It's a very cool accent anyway. If you're listening, Leah, I heard a fella from New Orleans, and he said it's funny the way they say restaurant. When we're going to the restaurant, it's a real breakdown of it. It's a cool accent. It's not like your typical deep south accent. But let me know because you were saying as well that you got a diagnosis of BPD that was then changed to bipolar. So you think to yourself, I've heard a lot of that, of where it's one condition, oh no, it's the other. So it's like, well, what is it? It can't be both. Or it could be, but then you go, no, you didn't have that, you have this. Like I was saying, I was diagnosed with ADHD, and then it was like, no, you don't. So it's one doctor just disagreeing with the other, and I'm not very fulfilled by that answer. You know what I mean? It doesn't give me an awful lot of confidence when the doctors can't agree on what condition I have. But we get into it now. And as always, I'll start with what I was first diagnosed with. That's my good old pal autism. And this is from Squarespace, just FYI. I like to give a shout out to whoever I'm showing it from. I love these diagrams because I think they give you a visual, you're kind of looking at it and you're going, yeah, okay, so these two combined in here could explain an awful lot. And could one be negatively impacting the other? Perhaps, or could one explain why you don't have the other? That could be a reason as well. So this is high masking autism, which is it's definitely me. It's something that I do a lot, which is I mask a shitload. Which doesn't mean that life is easier for you. It just means that you don't want people to see. And I think I've gotten quite good at that. But every so often the mask slips right down and people get to see the raw, unedited version of me. So here's the thing now. So emotional upset triggered by change, cognitive overload, and sensory overload. Sensory issues, repetitive behavior and routines, may struggle with maintaining friendships or develop one intense friendship at a time and special interests. So again, like I was saying with the overlap with depression, there were only like two things over here in this column for autism because it's what relates to the other conditions, how these two, interlink essentially. But yeah, sensory issues have always impacted me. Like a loud noise will make me jump. Had to get an eye test the other day, and the air blowing into my eyes. Even though I knew it was coming, it made me jump every time without fail. Now it is very uncomfortable, so it makes sense. But yeah, it's definitely loud noises, and as I said, senses like feeling. Feeling was something for me, like the sensation of clothing. Wearing a shirt today, and I have to have a t-shirt on underneath it, so I'll just show you. Even though like I sweat a lot, and I can barely wear one layer of clothing, never mind two, but I have to wear something soft underneath this material. Otherwise, I'll go fucking mental. And then I've got jeans on, which I'll have to change out of after this video. But yeah, definitely, something that really impacted me would have been sensory issues. And then also, like, as you say now, when am I allowed respond to stuff like with anger, or it just became anxiety in the end, unfortunately. So when you're sensory overloaded with social interactions, and up here is getting sensory overload, that's when I really struggle. Emotional upset triggered by change, yeah. I guess for me it's when there's a big life changing event, and I've been very triggered by that at the minute. So graduating college and then looking for a job, looking at moving out. Like I've lived out of this house before, I've moved out. Um, that was difficult, but when I got used to it, then shit started happening at home. Then I got really worried and I started panicking, thinking this has set me back a lot. So I was kind of thinking, fuck, so something else has happened there. So you think to yourself, sometimes when I've gotten used to change, something will set me off. Like my mom will get unwell, or my brother, or something will happen. The house will be in a bad state, and I'll just be triggered by that. Triggered. Everybody's triggered these days, am I right? Repetitive behavior and routines, more so the repetitive behavior, like the echolalia, like 97X, bam, the future of rock and roll. I love the Rain Man example. It's a really good one to give. Um, but yeah, and I'll just keep tapping my hands, or I'll keep repeating something. So, or do the same thing that really makes me comfortable, I would say. So like, not even describe it. I'll just keep repeating something that makes me laugh, or I'll keep tapping myself in a particular way, or I might arrange stuff in a particular way. Not usually with that one, but yeah, I've kind of my mind's so emotionally all over the place that I feel like the routines part has never really been the thing for me, because there's been so much change going on around me, which triggers me for sure. Don't really know what that one. It's not really a big one for me, because I feel like my routine's been, scattered all the time. So even if I wanted a routine, I couldn't have one because life was so messy. May struggle with maintaining friendships or develop one intense friendship at a time. I mean, we've gone through a few of these, so I'll only spend a few minutes on them. But I would say, yeah, like I always worry that I'm not giving enough to a friendship. I feel like I have to go above and beyond for a friend. And the same's not done from them. Like that's just not the same give and take. It feels like I have to give a lot of the time. Um, and it's been very difficult for me recently. So I want to just talk about this. I was uncomfortable talking about it, but there's been a lot of shit going on at the minute, right? Like I went away with my friends last year, and I'll be honest, I felt like shit a lot of the time. I feel like there was a real dick measuring competition going on, and it was like they were comparing me to them and making me feel bad about myself. Then they were comparing each other's jobs, and they're both in the trade, so they were comparing which trade is the best. I was like, oh, fuck off. You know what I mean? We're just here to have a laugh, but I'm not saying I was a fucking angel either, but I definitely become worse when I'm around them. And they were also like, look, we're young lads, we're in Benidorm, so we're having a laugh, we're having a good time. We were having a good time. But at 4 a.m., I was bollocks. I was not staying out any longer than that. I had to get back to my bed. And they stayed out all night. And um, I was like, well, make sure then, because they needed a key, so I gave them one of our keys, and I was like, well, make sure you don't fucking lose that, now, you know what I mean? Um, so I gave them once they could come back in. Lo and behold, they lost it. Don't fucking know how, but they were banging the door down, and when the door opened and in they came, we were all shattered the next day, and somehow got away without having to pay the charge for losing the key. Hush, hush, I shouldn't be saying that. Don't know how, but yeah, after that it was a real eye opener, and I haven't really made much of an effort to stay in contact. But I do feel like all their lives are moving on and going great for them, even though they treated me badly. And, could be snakes to me, when a different friend comes along, they're always trying to impress that fella. And I'm an easy target for jokes, because I don't pick up on them as quick, and I'm a bit slower to cop when I'm being shot all over, basically. And then, as I talked about, like, one of them was with me when I ran out in front of a car and tried to take my own life because of him and another fellow and what they were saying to me. And not because of them in particular, like, that's not fair to say. But with everybody, basically just shitting all over me and acting like they could treat me like the butt of all the jokes. And I kind of played up to that a little bit because I felt like I have to be funny. Like, what else do I have to contribute? Because I used to be very good in the gym and physically fit, but then I had a complete fucking mental breakdown, and that led to me gaining a lot of weight. And I feel like they used it against me, without calling me a fat fuck. It was kind of like, oh, you can't do this or you can't do that, or you're weak minded or whatever. Friends shouldn't make you feel that way, you know. And I kept giving them the benefit of the doubt, but they'd be all right when they were with me on their own or with a different group, and then when the two of them were together, it's just piling on top, And I feel like I constantly had to slag them back on my own, which then made me look like the bad guy. And then it's easy, to say, oh yeah, well you did it, so it's your fault. And I'm kind of like, oh, fuck this, I don't need this shit. Um, but when the two of them got together, they treat me like shit for a fact, and bring up jokes. Like when the joke had stopped, they'd start bringing it up again, or one of them would look at a one way of, slagging me off to get the whole ball rolling again. I was kind of like, that's not fucking fair. But I guess I was stuck with them for the week, so I kind of had to put up with it. Yeah, that's been very difficult. And as I say, like, they'll text me when they're drunk and say, "Oh yeah, we should meet up and do this," and then it's like, "Ah yeah, great," but nothing ever comes from it. Or if I try and arrange something, it's, "Oh yeah," but they undermine me a lot. Like, as I said before, I used to do stewarding, kind of like security work, but not as intense. You're just basically you're telling people where they can and can't park. You're trying to keep estates free from congestion, so you don't want too many cars parked at the same time. You know what I mean? And guiding people to and from concerts, etc. So I would say just get hydrated. I've put these Ishka bottles in the freezer, and it's taken them all day to thaw out because our fridge is so good. I should have left them outside, but I'm afraid of the melting plastic. I should mention. Um, but yeah, so I used to do the security for the concerts, and I got a free ticket before for Longitude, which anyone remembers that in Ireland. Like, that was a good concert to go to. It was a good laugh. Um, and I went back in 2019. I was 20 at the time. It was a good laugh. I went with one of my mates, and I had an interest in going. And I thought to myself, that's a goal that I'm going to set because that's a local festival. It was a big thing, and you could always hear it, but I was either too anxious to go or I didn't have a friend group to go with me. And then I thought to myself, look, I've got the perfect solution. Because a local politician in the area, shout out to Sean McLaughlin who organised this, but he was really good. So he just offered me before when I was after going to the gym with my brother, and we went to the centre in Marley, just opposite Marley Park, if anyone knows it. Um, this brings back memories, but he just came up in fairness and was with the volunteer men's shed, he said, "Would you guys like the steward?" And my brother wasn't in a great place, so in fairness, he just went, "Ah, no, I don't really think so." I was like, "Yeah, fuck it, let's do it." I said I'd like to do it, and so I did it. I actually did it the day after longitude, which is honesty for you, because I ended up doing security work with a hangover. But he was sound, and he said, if you want tickets for your mates, that's no problem. We can arrange that as well. They only have to do a few hours. So I was like, yeah, yeah, absolutely. I'll say it to them. So there's about four or five of them now, Um, one of them, who was a good mate of mine who's not been in a great place, he had bought a weekend ticket for him and his brother. So I said to him, well, I'm getting tickets as well. So how about we meet up for one of the days? And he said, yeah, if my hangover's not too bad. He tried going every day. But the other lads, I was like, look, we've got a golden ticket. We've got a golden ticket. I said, I've got a free fucking ticket here. And I said it to loads of people. I was like, get off your arse. We've been talking about going to this since we were 14 or 15. Do you know what I mean? And I thought to myself, this is because I'm arranging it. You know what I mean? Because they undermined me so much, and I have to just vent here, so do bear with me. But I had a really good idea, and I was presenting them with a golden goose, essentially. I was giving them gold there. I was like, this is our opportunity. You know, it was like, let's all go, let's have a good time, let's have a laugh. You know what I mean? Because they'd all been talking about it, and then two of the lads ended up going with their girlfriends and spending like 250 quid in the ticket. I was like, I've got free ones for you here, so let's do that. And I had four of them anyway. I was like, here's a free fucking ticket. The amount of people I offered it to, and you think in this day and age, well, especially like it was 2019, but you think to yourself, it's free. How often are you going to hear that for something as big as that event? So anyway, I said it to them, and they said that a lot of them said they were free, but then last minute had something on or something came up. And one of the lads said, "Oh, do I have to do this Jordan all day?" And I was like, "Look, mate, you don't even have to show up. Let's be real. If I show up, that's all that matters because I'm the only face that he's going to see. So I'm the only one he's going to know." I was kind of like, "Look, show up for a few hours at least. Don't be a dickhead about it." But realistically, if I show up, I can do the other hours and I can cover them, So you probably don't even have to do it, or maybe show up for 1 or 2 hours. But they said they'd do it, and then they all cancelled on me last minute. I said, "Oh yeah, I might do. I'll see what I'm doing." Now that shit, I'll see what I'm doing. That means no. So if anyone says that to you, it basically means I'll wait until there's a better offer, and if there's no better offer, I'll stick with you. I don't ever fucking tolerate that shit. That stuff drives me mental. I hate that shit. But yeah, so that didn't work out. I ended up going with my other mate who was dying of a hangover, and yet still he soldiered on. We went in, we had a great time. We met a few other people in there that we hadn't even planned on meeting them, but we were chatting and we were having a few beers. Everyone was amazed, right? So I just want to highlight this now. These were like I imagine Longitude, like a big concert or festival, is a nightmare for most neurodivergent people and autistic people in general. But people said they were amazed by the fact that I went in not only on my own but sober. Everyone gets buckled before they go in, and it's mad to think I was stone cold sober going into that, whereas people were taking drugs, they were drinking, the bottles, the little nagging of vodka, they were lying around everywhere. I'd say it was a fucking disaster to clean that up, but like it was bad enough doing stewarding. Let's be real. Um, you breaking up and like fights or antisocial behaviour. Luckily, people clear off pretty quick when you come over to them because they know that they'll be arrested and whatever. But I nearly had a panic attack when I was doing the stewarding, not when I was doing it, when I was going home. And the reason was just because the crowds of people coming at me. One of the lads offered to give me a lift, and he did as far as he could. But then everyone started piling out on top of me, and I was like, "Get out of my fucking way! I want to go home." And I was just like, "Geez, this is too loud for me," you know. Um, and it was difficult, but I felt like I'd been undermined, and I thought it'd be something that we've talked about for years, all going to a concert together, a festival, having a laugh. I've arranged it, and that's why it's not happening. And I fucking knew it because I heard the Red Hot Chili Peppers were playing in Marley Park a few years later, right? And I wasn't even necessarily doing stewarding for this, but I said to the lads, "Do you want to go and see it? I'd really like to go and see them." And one of the lads said, "Oh yeah," and he's actually the more difficult one. But he was like, "Oh yeah, I'm easy." And another lad, I'm not giving names, as he said, but there's this other fella, the one that was with me, and the time I threw myself out in front of the car. That's how we'll use it. But he said, "Ah, no, don't go to that. Let's go to Tomorrowland, over in Belgium, festival." And I thought, yeah, because we couldn't even arrange to go together in our own back garden, basically. But we're going to arrange a big mad festival over in Belgium. That's going to happen. Yeah. Nothing ever came of that, obviously. And not only that, I saw him and another mate who just, hides in the background um, passively until everyone starts slagging me. And then it's like, I'll gang up on him. He was always like that. He'd never defend you in that area. I talked to him before, a bit of a snake when it comes to that, to be honest. But look, I'm not going to mention names for that reason, but I know who they are. And yeah, look, it's difficult because some of them I'm still in contact with, but at the same time, I don't know, like your mate shouldn't change on you depending on who's with them. That should never happen, and that's happened to me a lot. But I saw these two lads at the Red Hot Chili Peppers concert, like posting it online. I was like, I thought you said you weren't going, or you were like, showed them text and I said, I tried to arrange this ages ago and you ended up just going without me. Sound, nice one. And I've gotten so used to tolerating that type of behavior, it's just a norm, really. So I wouldn't say it's all me. You see this, like, it's always put on the person with autism struggles to maintain friendships. Why is that, though? It's always put on the neurodivergent person. Like, I know two of my closest mates are autistic as well. And if they say they'll be somewhere, they'll fucking be there. There's no, I'll see what I'm doing. If they're free, they will come and they'll be exactly the same with me as they are with everybody else. They might rip into me, but they'll do it when other people are around and on their own. And we'll have a laugh about it and I'll feel good. I won't feel negative about it. And when people are taking the piss and ripping into you, you get that feeling and that shitty sensation in your stomach, the butterflies. And that's not fucking nice. So I feel like when people show you this may struggle with maintaining friendships or develop one intense friendship at a time. Now, I don't know. I don't really get that, to be honest with you. Say I try and give my all to a friendship because I'm afraid of people leaving me, which we'll get to in that. So maybe there is some truth to this. Okay, yeah, but it's not all on the person with autism. People are shitty. The only people I know that cancel and don't tell you or are rude or say I'll see what I'm doing is neurotypical people. It's accepted that you can just treat people like shit and you don't have to say that you're not making it or you're not going to show up. It's like that's not fair. And I've gotten so used to it that I kind of tolerated it, but I'm not doing it anymore because it's not fair. If I say I'm going to be somewhere, 9 times out of 10 I'll fucking be there unless I'm having a severe panic attack, and I will let you know as soon as possible. Um, so like last yeah, so the Saturday just gone, met up with Diana again, which I was really happy with, and I really like her. And I think she's great. I really want to meet up with her again, but I'm fucking nervous about it because I don't know, and I hope she doesn't watch this channel, because then she'll know already. But because I really like her, but yeah, have such low self-esteem. I'm just looking at that as I get to it. Yeah, Jesus, I'm taking off the list. I haven't even gone deep into this yet, but I always thought, I'll make an effort dating, and it's kind of like my job search, ironically. There's a lot of overlap between dating and interviewing for jobs because you're trying to give your best self. and you want to appear as suitable and a good partner. Why should we choose you? You know what I mean? So it's kind of like a transactional thing, but I'm a hopeless romantic. So I love the whole element of, a man and a woman, and I'm very romantic when it comes to that. Unfortunately, everybody's done their damnedest to fucking ruin that for me. The fairy tale stories. Yeah, I'm pretty much losing that idea of the world, unfortunately. I don't want to, because I think we need to hold on to some hope and some joy in life because the world is shit enough, especially now. Well, I know it was always shit, to be honest. Let's be real. We just didn't hear about it as much. But I'm terrified of her getting to know, that I am a vulnerable person, and because I want to be strong and want her to know that I look after her, and I like to do that sort of thing. You know what I mean? The traditional roles of a man and a woman. And no, I don't mean misogyny because that's fucking wrong. I mean, man looks after a woman that he's with, and she makes him feel good about himself, and vice versa. It's not like one person's better than the other. You're at ease with each other, at ease, soldiers. But like there's a new mate that I met, at another friend's birthday party, and I just got talking to him. I didn't really know him, but I got on very well with him, and he invited me out for an engagement party that he's having. And I thought, I like this fella, yeah, definitely. Then I thought about it, and I had a funeral on the Saturday morning, or sorry, afternoon. Yeah, 2:15. That's for my good mate, and God love his mom. It was very fast, like what happened with her. I'm not going to go into too much detail because that's his stuff. I'd just say a close friend of mine lost a mother, and I'd just say a quick prayer for her. But I thought to myself, the last thing I want is to go out drinking and then have to go to a funeral, which is sad. And I've been hungover at a funeral, and I get very emotional at the best of times. So imagine being hungover. And I like this woman. I wouldn't say I was very close with her, but I got on very well. And it happened so fast. I thought, no, no, I'll be in a very bad way. So I'll stay sober. I said 8 hours before the whole thing started, early in the morning. I didn't sleep very well. So I said, look, mate, I'm really sorry, but I'm not feeling great. Got a funeral, got work as well, and I can't go. Really sorry, but let's catch up again for a point sometime. He was like, "Yeah, mate, no issues at all." Because I would have had to stay in Dublin, in my auntie's house, who kindly offered to put me up. In fairness to her, but it was on a blow-up mattress. I would have been getting in, steaming. Wouldn't have slept properly. Not a fucking chance. Sleeping on a blow-up mattress with a hangover, you're not getting any proper sleep. So I slept, got a good night's sleep. My brother, in fairness to him, dropped me up to the funeral, and then I went, paid my respects, went back with the family, got to meet my mate's sister. We had a good laugh. We had a good laugh, and that's the thing I'll say, that I liked that funeral because it wasn't a sad occasion. It wasn't miserable. It was trying to remember the positives. And then we went back with the family. We had a good chat and a laugh, and that's what I like. I like to remember the good about people, not all doom and gloom, because there's enough that goes on up here anyway. You know what I mean? And then I arranged to meet Diana after I was done. We went to Dunleary and had a great time. I really do like her, but I never think that it could ever, nothing could ever materialize because of such a low self-esteem, which is not an attractive quality, I might add. But um, said I'd be honest in this channel, and that's what I'm doing. It's yeah, it's very hard for sure. The thing is, I'd really like to see her again, but I'm thinking of reasons not to. You see how much conflict there is going on up here already. So I just assumed, apply for jobs, you're not going to get them. Try and go on dates with women, yeah, but that'll never work out. You'll never develop anything meaningful. Yeah, great way of looking at it. But now that it is, I'm like, good. You know, we're going to move on to this because I feel like if we're talking relationships, yes, autism has a lot of negatives to do with that, but I feel like BPD is absolute dynamite when it comes to explosive relationships and the kryptonite to relationships too, because emotional upset triggered by attachment injuries. Now, that might be very complicated, but what I think that means, and I mean, what does it mean to you? Put that in the comments down below. Emotional upset triggered by attachment injuries would mean to me you've tried to connect with people and they've rejected you. And I can fucking relate to that. That is a horrible feeling. You know, when you try and reach out to people and it's like you just get rejected or pushed back or they leave you for somebody better, but better. You know what I mean? Like I fucking hate that stuff. And that's not your fault. You know, if that shit happens, that's not fair. But unfortunately, we've normalized that. You know, I'll leave you for someone better, or when a more popular friend group comes along. That's a shitty fucking way to treat a human being. Let's call it for what it is and stop accepting it because we accept this shitty behavior far too often. And it's the normal thing to do. Whereas what I've seen, those who aren't normal are the ones who actually treat people with fucking decency. But yeah, can 100% relate to that. You know, when you try and make an effort and people just push you back and they don't do the same. Um, or even with your own family, you know, when you feel rejected by them, there's nothing worse. And that I think gets the fucking ball rolling and right to that too, sadly. Marked by a pervasive pattern of instability in relationships, self-image, and mood. It's starting to feel a bit more BPD in this room. Yeah, like, oh, I'm getting scared now, if I'm being honest, because I've heard only negatives about this condition. So if there is anything that relates to it, I am terrified. I'm very scared of that, to be honest. But instability in relationships, I think you can give a fucking recent example of that, you know, where a supposed friend, was talking about me behind my back, and I said to her, "That's fucking shitty way to treat someone. You know, I'm not having this." And nice to know that my mental health's a joke to you, and I spoke about that. You know, that's not right. You can't treat people like that. So I cut ties with her. There's another one who was doing psychology, and she obviously said something, but was very defensive. You know, in a very victimized way of, "I didn't say anything. I promise. You know, I don't appreciate this." And I was like, "Well, sorry if I got it wrong, but you have to admit it's a bit of a coincidence that I asked you to come on this channel and talk about mental health, and then one of your closest friends sends me a message going, it's a bit weird him asking you to talk about mental health, and that's creepy and whatever." And I was kind of like, yeah, I've caught you out, so I'm keeping my eye on you anyway, you don't have to do that. And I said it to her, I was like, you didn't want to come on the channel, you could have just fucking told me. But she denies it, and look, leave it, whatever. I'm not making an effort with those two ever again. But I feel like people don't expect you to call out bullshit, especially women. Especially, I'm just saying, as I see it, there's a lot of women out there who are, "Oh yeah, how are you?" And they act like they're really kind and loving, but then they go behind your back, do snaky things, drop you like a hot snot, and there's a lot of lads who'll just fucking go with the flow, and whoever's the coolest and most popular, they go off with them. Coolest and most popular. What am I, a fucking American high school kid? Instability in relationships. I've got to admit, yeah, I've had very unstable friendships anyway, um, and dates. Where it goes. I want to see them immediately. They don't see it the same way. They want to go a bit slower, and I'm kind of like, "Oh, all right. If you don't want to see me, fuck it. I'm not making any effort with you because I don't want to just text. I want to actually meet up with you." And there's been so many excuses, and I don't know if people just want to, string me along. But I'm kind of like, well, if you don't like me, fine. But we're wasting our fucking time here. And I've had a lot of shit friends. So again, I want to just say what I've said over here. It's the same. So it's not just the autistic person struggling to maintain friendships or the BPD person who's at fault for the instability in the relationship. Maybe the people that have been around them have treated them like absolute shit. Now, that's not excusing bad behavior, but at the same time, if you just drop someone when somebody better comes along, and I've said that because nobody's better than each other, but aren't you going to get a little bit? emotionally fucked up. Pardon my French, and my psychiatric terms probably aren't the best. But if you're mistreated by not only family members, which I have been, then friends come and go whenever somebody more popular comes along. Like I've spoken about that before, but I've had mates that would drop me as soon as somebody better came along, and then when their cousins were over, they never made an effort. They go off with another friend, and their cousins would say that, "Oh no, I want to spend the day with my cousins, so I won't be out with you today." So, but your other friend is out with you and your cousins. Why not me? And then I felt bad for. I felt like I let some of those friends down because I wasn't necessarily loyal to them, and I kind of thought, hold on a second, they were never fucking loyal to me. And you kind of feel these things. You feel like that person's not loyal to me. That's why you don't feel an innate sense of loyalty to them. Do you know what I mean? If they treat you shitty and are not loyal to you, you aren't going to feel a sense of loyalty to them. You know, because it's not reciprocated. Um, and then, as I say, in terms of dates and romantic relationships, they've never gone very well for me. And I feel like if you've got both these conditions, it's a recipe for disaster when dating. To be perfectly honest, which is not great, but keep trying, work on yourself, and it could happen. See, do you hear that? I had a big squeak in the back of my throat. I think it's the my hay fever. Nice big block of ice there, if anyone's looking. But yeah, like I've been rejected by a lot of friend groups, and then friends who were my friends for years. Somebody better came along, and I was gone. I didn't hear from them again, and I'm fucking sick of it. And then I'd start, saying, that was a real shitty thing to do. And they were like, "Oh, calm down, stop getting so agitated," or say that I needed anger management and stuff like that. I was like, "No, you treat me like shit. That's a pretty reasonable response." But wonderful teachers and doctors and all, they don't tell you that. They make it out like you're being unreasonable. And I fucking hate that shit. It's like, no, I'm not. I've been treated badly for so long. It's only natural I'm going to feel fucking angry and agitated, but people are not comfortable when you raise your voice. So you've got to just, bite your tongue and pretend it never happened. It's annoying. But self-image and mood, like, yeah, well, I'm afraid I'm going to have to take that one as well because, and I've posted pictures of it. So my weight has fluctuated so much over the years, like where I was underweight at one stage, like I was very skinny, and that's unusual for me, but I starved myself. I would only eat like a small kind of satsuma, some small easy peel orange, a banana. I'd have like 6 or 7 cups of coffee and honey because I thought it was Sylvester Stallone's magic recipe for weight loss, not growth hormone and steroids. No, of course not. Couldn't be that. And I'd run 12 kilometers 4 times a week, if not more. I absolutely flogged myself in the gym and still thought I was fat. If that's not body dysmorphia, I don't know what is. I absolutely starved myself and I was whacking in energy drinks, caffeine. Like it was amazing how much shit I put into my body, thinking I was being healthier just because I looked thinner. I didn't feel good at all. I was also on antidepressants. So it was very messy. You can see how messy this condition is already, which would explain a lot. The instability, emotionally unstable, as they call it. But I always thought I was fat, no matter what. And then I realized when I got a bit of gym knowledge that you've got to eat to put on muscle. I'm sure I was too busy starving myself that I didn't think about eating. And then it was the whole thing of putting on muscle and size. So then I started eating more. Wanted to get bigger and stronger. And then I was never bigger and stronger enough. I had a big chest, big arms, but I never actually could see visible abs. And at one stage I could, but sorry, one sec, just hold on there. So my brother wanted to annoy me. It's actually gas, right? He gave out to me for spamming him on WhatsApp, but he sent me loads of Instagram messages. I had like 30 in one day. And then in Snapchat, he goes, "Will you stop spamming me?" And then it's like when I tell him about a video that I sent him and he can't find it because he doesn't have Instagram anymore because he deleted it. Oh, show me, show me. Wants everything that he can't have. Typical man. But yeah, and we look then again at that, like, so self-image is like, I was always teased by my family for being overweight, and even if they didn't do it outright, there was a subliminal thing where me and my brother knew we were less because we were overweight, and I always felt that, so I had a deep desire to lose the belly, and flog myself in the gym. I really struggled to keep the weight off. Doesn't matter how fucking hard I push myself in the gym. Um, I really do struggle. I've always had a belly, you know, but we won't judge you. And I get really bad digestive problems, gastrointestinal issues. So it might just be something genetic, whether I like it or not. But it made me feel shit about myself. And then my arms were too thin because, like, I've got this big gut, but then my arms are too skinny because I've always had lean limbs, of course, because you can't just have a big gut. You got to have skinny arms and legs, and you can't be a strong fat man. You've got to be fat, but then have thin limbs, thin Lizzy. But then, like I say, gain and muscle. But then you have to eat more calories, so you're putting on more weight. You're fatter. Um, but I looked strong, you know what I mean? But I could never appreciate either one because my self image was just always so unstable. Didn't matter what I did. And then I take another sip of water, but I would say I don't have a sense of self. I don't know who I am 1 minute till the next, and I base everything off what I can contribute to other people. So, like I was talking about issues where I get overly involved in my family's problems and they give out to me, um, like confronting my brother's school tormentor, if you like, bully, better word. But I felt like that was the right thing to do because I can be impulsive, yeah, but I also felt like that was the right thing to do. And I can't do right for doing wrong, but I felt like my value was less as a human being if I don't defend my own family, whereas they'll think I told you not to, don't do it. It's like, no, it's too intense. I have to do something about it. Because if you ask me, like, what are my goals in life and who am I, like, I couldn't fucking tell you. Like, it shifts so much. So that means you're very easily impressionable. Like, you'll do what you think is right based on what a friend does. And I hope that makes sense. It's a very messy condition, but I have to admit there is a lot of overlap with me and this. And you only need 5 out of 9 um, symptoms to meet the criteria, for the condition. But you can have traits as well. So you can have about 4, not have the whole thing, but you have the traits. You just don't have the personality disorder, if that makes sense. And I just feel like my self image has always been very distorted. So another way of describing that would be you set yourself goals in life, right? And you think, if I achieve my goal, I'll feel great. But if I don't, I'll be very disappointed in myself. I've not only achieved a lot of my goals, I've smashed them out of the park and I feel meh. But if I don't achieve my goals, I feel like you are worthless. You're a piece of shit. You are the lowest life form on earth. You're pond scum. If for anyone who watches Wolf of Wall Street has seen the movie, like when I was younger, I always thought I wanted to be a rugby player, a professional rugby player. That's what I thought I wanted to be. But then I remember hating training, hating games. I didn't want to be there. I felt like the pressure was too much. I felt so much relief when the game was over. And someone said, well, why would you do it then? But then a lot of other people said, well, sport's good for you. You need to get back into it. And I was like, maybe not. Maybe it's toxic. I used to dread games. I used to hate going and playing games. And I didn't think it was for lack of talent. Like, I feel like people didn't help me as well, and I feel like if they just made more of an effort of connecting with me, maybe it could have been easier. Maybe. I guess admitting to myself I didn't want it was the hardest part because I always thought that's what I wanted. But I hated playing, so how the fuck are you going to be a professional player if you can't even play? I used to just want to play for a highlight reel or something and think, oh yeah, I did this and there, tick off a box, you've done that now. But you can't do something that you fucking hate and have that as your life goal. You'd be fucking miserable doing that. And Brezzy makes a good point about that, breaking his own arm so he didn't have to play a game, which really resonated with me. And I thought to myself, yeah, why didn't I consider self-harm so I wouldn't have to play? Um, you think to yourself, it's madness showing up. Why don't you just say, I'm not doing it? Like, people have said that to me before, and I was like, you don't get it. Like, you really don't. There's a deep level of shame if you say you're not playing. But if you have an injury, now you have an excuse not to play. And I pushed myself, and it's too much. It was too much. Whatever I was doing, I knew it was too fucking much. And then it got beyond too much, and I broke down big time. And it was inevitable. It was going to happen. I was kidding myself thinking I could keep going for that long, and I couldn't. And eventually I just snapped like that elastic band that just keeps stretching, and then twang, it goes. And I love that analogy. I think it's a very good one. But then, right, so you think to yourself, you didn't achieve that goal, but at the same time, was that even your goal? People would praise me when I did well in sport, so I thought that's what I need to do. But every week I would dread playing the game. I'd go to training and have to drag myself there. I'd take a shitload of caffeine to get me through the sessions so that I could keep going. Then I would collapse in bed, not even sleep properly, be exhausted the next day, go into college, get through that, straight to training, game, whatever, rinse and repeat, get shit faced at the weekend, feel absolutely shit Sunday and Monday, but keep doing it, never mind, and then work over the weekend as well. Nevertheless, there's what I meant to say, not never mind. Never mind, never mind, never mind. Really good song. I love that song. And it's Lloyd, isn't it? I love it. It's a really good one. But yeah, I don't actually think that was a goal because I don't think I actually wanted to do it. But it was something that gave me praise, so I felt good for it. But I needed my fix every week. If I didn't play every week, I wasn't getting my fix of dopamine. I couldn't put my pictures up on Instagram. Oh, played a game, tough game with the weekend out in Port Nice, Carlow, wherever, Tullamore, Tullow and Tullamore, whatever back arse part of the country ended up playing in that day. Um, I actually hated it. A lot of times I hated to travel out to some cold, kippy dressing room, wherever it was, and people talk about it, and I'm there thinking I didn't look forward to that. I actually saw a dressing room before, a real cold and miserable changing room, and I thought, fucking hell, I do not miss that one bit. That's not a goal, is it? Not really, but that was how distorted my sense of self was that I felt like I had to do it. So I can relate to that. But then you also set yourself goals. You think, get through college. I did that. I fucking smashed it. Like I didn't think that was possible, but I did it. It's kind of like, yeah, you did all right, but now it's off and get a job now. I do that. That's not all it's cracked up to be. I try and get a better job, and now I'm struggling to do that. I took the first fucking job I was given because that's all I felt like I was worth. I feel worthless most of the time. It's like, here's a job, take it, or you're a lazy piece of shit, not given the proper training. Well, fuck it, you're paid to do a job, so you do the job, whether you're trained or not. You fucking do it. And yeah, like it's not a nice place to be in this fucking head. Trust me, you can get taken advantage of very easily because you don't have boundaries, and I haven't for a long time. And the fact that I like to help people and be empathetic, but I feel like it's been spat back in my fucking face, and I feel like this condition often has a lot of people abusing them. It's not just a case of they're abusive, but there's some things you can't do. It's not acceptable to take your anger out on other people just because you were mistreated. If that person hasn't done it to you, that's not their fucking fault. And I feel like we get that wrong so often. Um, but yeah, like with the college thing, set myself a goal more recently, and I posted pictures of that. And my weight fluctuates a lot, but I wanted to get to 110 kilos. That was my goal. I was 120, very heavy, sluggish. Got to my I actually lost 2 kilos. got to 118 kilos, bench pressed 120. It was a goal of mine. Got a bad shoulder injury there playing rugby, and my bench press was flying up. I was doing really well in the gym, and then I nerve damage in my left shoulder, and I couldn't lift anything. And I was gutted because I was making so much progress in the gym. And that's something that pissed me off about rugby too, was the fact that you're always fucking injured, so you can't achieve your goals in the gym. It messed up a lot of things as well, but it is something I love genuinely. But I want to play it for the joy, not the ambition of getting anywhere. Because I never think that was the goal to begin with. But not only did I get to 110 kilos, I got to 108, and then I got even lower. I got to 106.4 kilos, which I posted on the channel as well on the page. But I smashed my fucking goal out of the park, and this is with a few days on the program left to spare. Like I absolutely aced it, and this is without a gym most of the time. I might add, or any equipment. Sometimes I only had a park and one of those jungle gyms, but I did it. Whatever the lad I was training with, Liam, shout out to him. He was so helpful. I did whatever he asked, and we made a plan. But I just felt tired. I felt lethargic. I felt really light, and I thought, oh, I don't know about this. And now, obviously, I've gained a few more pounds since then. In case you couldn't tell, I'm a fatty by nature. But everybody used to say, gain a few pounds, get bigger and stronger. And then it's, I need to lose weight for my health. Now I'm being told I've high cholesterol and family history of heart disease. So I need to fucking watch my weight. I can't be gaining a shitload of weight for any sport because I just think I'm more sensitive to stuff. So, like it or not, that stand I've been dealt, I better deal with it. But you see what I mean? You get to your goals, and it's like, okay, yeah, great. Where do I go from here? You don't feel good if you achieve your goal, but if you don't achieve it, and I know for a fact, if I didn't graduate from college, because at one stage I thought that I hadn't, the disappointment that I would have felt, and even if like a fraction of the disappointment was when I thought I didn't graduate, and I felt so disappointed, like I've let my family down. They put so much time and effort into helping me out. They really wanted me to do this. I picked this over a trade. I'm worthless. I'm a piece of shit. I couldn't do it. What a waster I am. I'm a fucking loser. It's a very nice self-talk, but I've never been really upset before because I was struggling mentally a lot, and my mom was upset that I wasn't going to college. And I thought, she said, "Oh, you're going to college today, Dan? I think you should." And I was like, "Oh, I'm sorry, I just can't do it." And I felt like I was letting her down, genuinely, like, and that drove me to do something to do really well, and I did, But even when I talk about stuff like fixing the robotic lawnmower here, the auto mower or auto mower, as the locals say, it's good accent, the Wexford accent, and the R claw. It's a bit more like North Wexford, in case you're wondering. R claw, but when I was fixing that, I remember thinking you're useless. You can't do anything, because I was thinking I haven't fixed it. It's broken. The grass isn't going to get cut. It looks amazing, by the way, at the minute, the grass, and I'm so proud of myself. Um, but the thing is, like, I was so pissed off at myself. And then when I got it working, I was very relieved. Then I was like, okay, I am genuinely delighted that it's working, and touch wood, it fucking stays working because it's a disaster to repair. But it's helpful for my mom, and it takes the stress off her mind, which I like doing if I can. God knows she's had enough of it for her lifetime, and she fucking has. God love her. Um, it's not been easy for any of us, and I feel like we've had each other, if nothing else. And that's never talking negative about her. It's just stating what happened. You know what I mean? And like, I forgive 100% because the good outweighs the bad so much. Like 100-fold, 150-fold, and she's done 150 folds in the wash. She's good at that. And good Irish mammy. But the point is, I've gone a very long-winded way about it. If I can help her out and my brother, I feel like I have some worth in the world, but it's not there innately. Um, so when I confronted that lad who gave my brother such a hard time, I was like, "Look what I did for you! I grew a pair of balls, and I actually did something for you." seeing him living his best life and planning his future when he nearly took my brothers away, I thought to myself, fuck you, you cunt. You don't get to walk away from this, as pardon my French, but if I want this channel to get monetized, I need to stop swearing. But at least you know it's real. That instability in relationships and self-image, I think you can see quite clearly how that comes about. I don't know who I am. That's genuinely the truth. And that one hit home with me more than any other condition, I've got to say. Because you see, with autistic people, I would say a lot of them very much know who they are. They have their thing, and that's what they do. Like my mate Danny, his thing is languages, and he works in, I won't say where he works, actually, I shouldn't be giving information, but um, Department of Foreign Affairs. That's okay to say, but he's always liked languages, and that's what he's good at. I have an interest in it too, like even with Diana, when I was saying Pura Vida and Carapicha, any Costa Ricans will know. Talking about Cacique as well. There's a young fellow on the team who's Costa Rican and have a good laugh with him. And I got him to send Diana a video. And it was good. It was a good laugh. But you got Danny with that, and that's something he's big on. He lived in the Canary Islands, and then you've got Noel, who was always into the army and dead set on the goal. You could see the goal at hand, and you were dead set on that. I mean, to a degree, I can be like that. With rugby, I trained very hard. But I feel like with this sensory overload and possibly this, of a very unstable sense of direction, goal, and I'm running on steam. It's not a deep desire or motivation within me, and eventually it runs out, and I just don't know if I'm coming or going. Um, so if I can be useful to other people, that's when I feel like I have some self worth, which is a very bad place to be because you've got to be self sufficient and know your own mind, and I fucking don't. Not at all. And now if we talk about mood, it's the slightest thing can set me off where I'll feel very bad about myself. I'll feel terrible, and I'll feel like I'm useless. I'll get extremely anxious. Um, Anger used to be very bad, for sure. I've gotten a lot better with that now, thank God. But it wasn't very positively done. It was basically like people can do what they want to you, and if you lose your temper, you're in the wrong. You can't do that, bad dog. That's how it felt. But like they were talking to me like it was a fucking dog half the time. So then I just took that anger outwards, brought it all inwards, and then you're beating yourself up over every little thing you do. And you tell me that's good. Like, that's what pisses me off. When someone goes off and now look, I'm not ever saying it's okay to kill someone, right? But when you see, things like adolescence and you see the young fella stabbing the girl, but then you find out he was terribly bullied and you think, well, what happens if he hadn't directed that outwards and had killed himself? People would have been saying how terrible that was. Nobody ever seemed to acknowledge that there was bullying going on, and I feel like that's bullshit. It's not all right to take your problems out on other people, but you have to take them out on yourself. And especially, look, if you're a bigger lad like I am, I think you're more likely to get people picking on you because you think to yourself, if someone has a group of friends and you're a vulnerable big lad, they want to look like the big lad, so they want to bring you down. If you're a little fella and people start picking on you, then everybody goes, I hear, we cop on and pick on someone your own size. Whereas with me, it was always a case of I was the big fella who was awkward and socially very anxious, so I was fair game, and no one was there in my corner to defend me, so nobody was sticking up for me. And I even got called a bully before because some little prick hit me and I thumped him back and he started crying. They're all like, you should know better. You see, he fucking squared up to me. He grabbed me and pulled me into his face. I hit him. I warned him, get off me now. And then I hit him. And then it's all, you've tried to intimidate me and threaten me. I hit you because you were doing that to me, and then I'm the worst in the world. You know what I mean? So I think that's very unfair to say inappropriate anger. Once again, it really annoys me the word, and this isn't mentioned here, but a big thing with borderline is inappropriate anger. Moody, yeah, probably, but from what I've seen, very often anger is not inappropriate. It might be excessive, but there's usually a reason. Maybe a misinterpretation, yes, but that doesn't mean inappropriate. Um, I don't know. Usually when I'm angry, there's a fucking reason for it. And I keep a lot of it inside, believe me. I do not let half of my anger out. I might shout or have an argument with a family member, yeah, but we love each other and we can be open. But it used to be a lot worse, where I'd be not only having fights with other people, then at home, um, smash things in the house. That was a common thing, yeah, which I have a lot of regret about because you got to take the good and the bad. I feel like defending yourself is a good thing, but if you're losing the rag all the time, that's not good. And you don't get to decide when you're doing it. That's the thing. It's all the time. It's not just situational, which is the whole point of a diagnosis for this, which is why people feel so bad about themselves because they're smashing up the house, there's having rows and telling your family you hate them or having a really bad argument with them. And then there's also the interpersonal conflict outside the family, which I definitely had, and I've gotten better with that. But people have fucking pushed me down, treated me very badly. So I don't think I'm all to blame. And I think a lot of people with borderline, you'll find a lot of them have been heavily abused, very badly abused. So I kind of encourage you to show a bit of empathy for that. And the mood part is you don't know if you're coming or going. What's acceptable, what's not. Am I allowed to be angry? Am I allowed to be, do I have to direct it inwards? Am I anxious? Or, yeah, I don't know. It's very messy, as you say. Intense relationships often marked by idealization and evaluation dynamics. Um, See, this is a funny one for me as well. I think there's some truth to it for sure. Where it will work with me is I always, and as I said it there, I think it's definitely true, but in a different kind of way. So I really like Diana. Like I saw an attractive woman that I physically attracted to, and then obviously intelligent and also ambitious. Like she was going to Grad Ireland, so that's where we met, and I felt like that's an attractive quality of hers for me is that she's ambitious, but she's also very good looking. So it seems kind and empathetic, which is something like she's perfect, perfecto. But I'm kind of looking at other women that I'm attracted to, and I don't like that I'm doing that, but I'm doing it because there's an attitude, and I've researched the fuck out of borderline before even getting a bit of the diagnosis myself. There's the, leave them before they leave me. And that is very true with me, like completely, which is why I think that I've never had a long term relationship. It's not only because of other people, because of me, because I'm terrified of having to be vulnerable with people, of having to show them my true self. And so the idealization, yeah, and the evaluation, it's like looking at other people and is there people that are more attractive than, and it's like, how about you realize how great the person you're with, and she is great, and I do feel really good about her. I really like her, and I hate that I do this, but it's because I feel so shit about myself that I think, no, I'm not good enough for her, and so I better just have these fake superficial relationships, which I don't want. Like, and I know I don't want them, but this fucking mind of mine will just jump to that anyway. Or she's great, she's the best thing in the world. I want to see her every day of the week. Oh, there's better people than her, and there isn't. I really do want to see her again. I really like her, and I want to make an effort. Oh yeah, it's not easy. All these emotions ping ponging around in your head. Not at all. It's a messy one, and I can be intense as well. Definitely, it's like, oh, do you not want to see me again, or what's going on? I want to see you again. I had a really good time. Where are you going? Or I wouldn't say I'm very intrusive, but I'm very. I'd say I'm intense, though. Yeah, yeah, I would agree with that because if I like someone, I really would give my all. But then I don't want to do this shit of devaluing because I do think she's great and I do want to see her again, but I can text too often maybe or just want to know everything at one stage. It's like Calm, Dan, calm. You know, take a deep breath, relax, and everything will work out. Hopefully. Oh, the lovely one down here. Fear of abandonment. Fuck yes. Yeah, absolutely. Um, and I think that's why you idealize and devalue because then you don't have to be left. You can leave the other person. But even when you do, you fear the abandonment. Like everything I've talked about with that friend group, how poorly I was treated, and the fact that, one of them saw me try to commit suicide and still treated me badly 2 weeks later. But I feel it sends a loss. I feel like I can't let go of that friendship. And there's others that I'm like, oh my God, I've lost a college friend group when, I was head over heels for one of the girls. I really fancied her and I liked her and she was doing the course. She is intelligent. But she says to me, I'd rather see each other when we graduate. Let's just be friends in college and then we'll pick this up when we graduate. And I thought, yeah, fair enough. We'll study and, we've all got a lot on our plate. We'll help each other out. And I think, yeah, relationship could be messy while we're in college. Good idea. Then she starts going out with one of my friends. Then they split up, have a big fall. Now he starts despising her. And then she goes out with his best friend, and now they're all friends. It's like, what the fuck? And I feel like I let, that's all gone. And I've had a few episodes. Sorry, I'm in a bit of acid reflux. I had a few outbursts. So kind of freaked them out. Oh, it was not in a good place. And someone got a bit confrontational with me and I got very angry, and it can work two ways where you're taken advantage of, or you can seem inappropriately angry. And if alcohol and drugs are in the mix, absolutely. But I wouldn't say I'm the type to fly off the handle all the time. I can get very intense emotions, yes, but I'm a caring person for sure. And I feel like if I'm not appreciated, that's when I get very angry. I feel like if people don't appreciate what I'm doing, I get extremely angry. But I also get very suicidal and fear of abandonment is something. I feel like the college group that I had just dropped me now, and I had a few incidents, yes, where I freaked the fuck out and I hold my hand up. I fucked up there, and I think they were right to freak out and be a bit concerned. Nevertheless, I feel abandoned, I feel like I don't have my friend group from school. They're all, fucked up in their own way, be it having a dick measuring competition or one lad's just in a very bad place mentally and fair enough, but it wasn't always good to me either. So I don't know, that's messed up as well. And then another lad's just gone off the grid. People have moved abroad, and I'm feeling very lonely and isolated at the minute. That fear of abandonment comes in, and now with Diana, I'm afraid she'll see the true me and then leave me. I'd say leave me. We haven't even been going out that long, but I really like her and I'd like to keep seeing her. So that fear is definitely there that I'll be abandoned, and I'm like, don't leave me. So it's a hard one. It's very difficult to deal with that, but very real at the same time. Where I was like, I don't expect friends to stick around because why would they for me? So I've got to make an extra effort. And when you overdo it, you push them further away because you're too needy. You know what I mean? So it's fucking messy. It's very messy. And then we come across to this lovely bit here, dissociation. As I was, given out to a lot for being angry and losing my temper, I start dissociating a lot. So people would ask me for something, damn, would you get that for me? Ooh, what? What? You're just not there. You're just blank, a blank stare, or I'd be slow to react, or people would have to tell me stuff a few times because I'm just not present in the moment. You know what I mean? And it's very bad when you're in work, especially, and that happened to me a lot because I was already overwhelmed and had jobs where I had to work with people, but also multitask, which does not help our good old pal autism here. Um, Plus being in a chronic state of anxiety and stress, not good at all. It throws you over the fucking edge, and then you start to dissociate because it's that old good lizard brain, the amygdala, fight, flight, freeze, appease. So for me, when I couldn't fight or I couldn't run away, freeze was the option, and that's dissociation in a nutshell, really. It's too much. Your body and mind can't cope with it, so they shut down. Your mind leaves the body, and you're just left staring into oblivion, which is obviously not great when you're in work, is it? Luckily, I've gotten a handle on it a lot better over the years, but like working in takeaways in places that are high stress, you need to get the food out fast, you need to cook it, you need to time it, you need to get it out, you need to get it ready, you need to serve the customer. It's messy and yeah, drove me over the edge plenty of times. Mood fluctuations, yeah, like, I go from being very, very miserable to, over the top, setting plans and goals that I'm going to do, or very excited about something, giggling and laughing. It can be weird. I'd say it's hard for people to get to grips with what mood I'm going to be in. People say I'm very random, but in a good way. Like it's like there's never a dull moment with Dan, that kind of way. But also Dan's a bit fucking insane, which I'll take. I'll take as a compliment. Yeah, but my mood can fluctuate where I'm, really just not saying much and I'm quite down the dumps. And I have been like that for the last 5 weeks, I would say, if not a bit more. Um, I kind of saw it coming. So that's why I was thinking last week, don't drink Friday, go to the funeral, maybe have a few drinks with Diana, have a few drinks with the family after the funeral, then have a few with Diana. But you don't want to go to a day piss drunk. So don't have too many. And that's why I'm thinking make sure you're not overdoing it, because drinking heavily at the weekend when you're not feeling great and you have a funeral, that's not ideal. And you're going to feel it, So I need to know when I'm feeling that way and nip it in the bud. But also the other way when I'm feeling really, go, go, go and happy, which I have been as well. Get to know that that's bad as well, because you can overdo a lot. You can drink, you can start having very impulsive and risky behavior, and that can fuck you up as well. You can make some really bad decisions, and I've been guilty of doing that too, you know, which is not good, not at all. Self-esteem impacted, yeah. When I talked about that, I have very low self-esteem, and it's not nice. I think we kind of talked about that, So, well, yeah, um, yeah, it's damaging. It really fucking is to your self-esteem, and that's not nice. Just makes you feel very shitty about yourself, really. With all this crap going on around you. As I think talked about that, so I'll move on to diffuse sense of self. Diffuse of a diffuser in my room. Is it like yeah? Let's say unstable sense of self more so, yeah. Because that's one of the criteria for BPD. And like I talked about there, self image was always bad, but I guess sense of self, what that would come under would be I'm a rugby player, or I'm a tradesman, then I'm a chef in a kitchen, because I worked in all those different jobs. But I genuinely thought, like, will I become a rugby player? That was my goal. Then will I, just get a trade and be a man's man? Will I join the army when I was still fit? I was thinking about that, and then didn't know, and I couldn't pinpoint any of these things and think that's what I want to do. Then I got into college and thought I'll be a scientist. That'll be great. So working science, that'll be great, and it's something that I've always been interested in. Yeah. Um, but then that's kind of shifted, and it's like, oh, will I be a teacher? Will I be a rugby coach? As opportunities for that have come up. So, and you can't really pinpoint which one you're going to go with, because it's like, I don't know. The unstable sense of self, which diffuse sense of self, I would say that's what it is. If I'm not mistaken. Um, yeah, it's definitely a case where you're a jack of all trades and a master of none, would be what I would say this boils down to, because you don't know who you are, if you're coming or going. Like, and I've tried so many different things to try and find who I am, essentially, like, as I say, with autism, Danny knows he likes languages. Department of Foreign Affairs. He's sorted. He knows who he is. He doesn't try to be this macho man, not at all. And he's comfortable. I love how comfortable he is in himself. He's a great guy. It really is. Noel, Arby, really physically fit, lean, and he just gets it. Doesn't need to worry about anything else. That's who he is. He knows who he is. Um, you know. So I think with autism that explains that a bit more. Whereas with me, rugby, teaching, science, could I be a scientist? Maybe. I'd like to be. Definitely would. Just if someone would give me a fucking chance, give me an interview or whatever. Then a teacher. Then I worked in the kitchen. Would I be a chef? I start enjoying cooking. I really like cooking. My mum will say not often enough, and I'd agree with her on that, to be fair. But I'm going to start. I'll take it up again because it's therapeutic. I really do like it, to be fair. But then I thought trades, army, all this stuff. You don't know who you are and you can't pinpoint it, and it makes other people look like experts, and you just be a passenger, a helper. You're not really a master of anything. You're just a jack of all trades and a master of none, as I say. Relationship difficulty, yeah, yeah, a lot of difficulties there because you just you want so much for it to work out and you're afraid of being abandoned. So you think, you know, uh, you're just terrified that people are going to leave you because they're going to realize who you really are, and you don't even know that. And yet you're afraid that they'll find out that you're not good enough because of the self esteem issues that we talked about up there. So, yeah, it's not great, I have to say. Not fun at all. Well, yeah, unfortunately, it's the reality of it. I have to say, a lot of people are snaky. They'll drop you if they don't need you, and that can extend to family as well, where it's just like there's a lot of difficulty. Like I thought I was doing the right thing for my brother. He thought, no, you're being selfish, and there was a clash right there as well. And you think you're doing the right thing, but you're not, and it can lead to a lot of difficulties in not only sexual but also your familial relations. Like your family will start to be impacted by this. Friendships wise, yeah, there could be a lot of conflict there as well, as I've talked about, which I think all leads in and ties in nicely to increased risk of victimization, suicidality, and self harm. Borderline personality disorder, I believe, has the highest rate of suicide and suicidal ideation. It's something like 70% of people with borderline have attempted suicide or self harm in their life, and that's extremely high. That's very sad to hear, like, in all honesty, and I'm no different. I have myself, so it's definitely there. And was never one for, cutting and slashing at myself because I just think that's nasty shit. But I think it'd be arrogant of me to not say that I have done other forms of self harm, like overtraining, abusing alcohol. Um, I used to tie stuff like ropes, and used to whip myself with bands like resistance bands in the gym. I remember I just got really frustrated and started whacking myself with it as hard as I could and tying belts around my neck. So that would be suicidal ideation, and like putting it in the door. And I start pulling on it, and I shouldn't say like it's gonna get grim, but yeah, I called it like practice, where I thought to myself, I feel so low. I want to just know that it's, I kick off the door and I'm gone. Yeah, and that's I know that's quite difficult, but I put the thing around my neck and then yeah, I would just fall forward and until I couldn't really breathe, and then I'd fall down and stand back up and think, okay, well if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do it right. And then obviously running out in front of the car, that was a very much a suicide attempt, and thank the Lord he looked out for me. Somebody did. And if you don't believe in a higher power, I was completely unharmed, and I'm very grateful for that. If nothing else, because there has been a lot of great things that have come my way since then. Even if I feel this shitty way, I'm very grateful for a lot of things. I just want to highlight, even if you have everything, you can still feel shit. So I'm still grateful. Be grateful for stuff, guys, because that will give you a lot more than you think. It's not a case of saying, you know, it could be worse, or oh, what are you crying about? These people over in Africa have a worse. No, no, that's not what we're saying. That's bullshit. That doesn't help anyone. It's I'm feeling shit, but guess what? I have this. I'm very grateful for that. And you start to boost your mood, Definitely works. 100% works. I'm telling you now. Um, Difficulty regulating intense emotions over the last few days, even I've been feeling this sick feeling and pounding sensation in my chest. Which probably doesn't help that I've been getting so anxious that I start smoking again. Which is not good for you. But it's ironic, isn't it? It's a stress reliever, but it makes the heart problems worse. Yeah, I heard of someone before. I got told I have high blood pressure and high cholesterol. It made me so anxious that I started smoking. I need to go and have a smoke, even though that's what's causing it. But don't worry, not a box a day or anything, just like two, maybe every second day. But yeah, it's the intense emotions do come, and it's usually fear, anxiety, then dread and despair. All those lovely things. So it's usually good, yeah. Intense emotions, I think, are always bad. They never really help. And not having an avenue to put them into, because it always gets to the stage where I'm really angry, and if I let it explode, I do something I don't plan, and it's very regretful. But also, if I do think about it for too long, I'm paralyzed with fear and anxiety, and I can't do anything. So that's not good either. Um, any tips on how to cope with that? Please send them down below. Tendency to systematize, categorize. So I guess what that would be is generalize, maybe. So all Italian people love football, all South African people love rugby. Now my mate Christoffel, he definitely does, but I generalize a lot. It helps me keep you know an order for things. Helps me to rationalize this very irrational world. Being an autistic fella, yeah. So systematize and categorize. This person's good. This person's bad. This person I can't trust. This person is great. This person is terrible. I kind of say that. When you put people into brackets, would probably be how I describe that. I think you would as well. Yeah, yeah. Probably that's what it would be, and I think that comes under autism a bit more. But when you idealize and devalue, could be a bit of borderline as well. It just helps you rationalize the world, as you say. Increased rates of eating disorders and substance abuse. Yep. Yes, yes. So as you said, starving myself, but also getting a really bad caffeine addiction, nicotine as well. Like I was smoking quite a bit to suppress my hunger as well, which is great, isn't it? Drinking a shitload of alcohol. Smoked a bit more weed than I'd like to admit, to be honest with you, but not substance abuse to a degree. And then I've taken cocaine as well, and it's like you want to feel that high, you want to get out of your own head, and that's kind of where you're coming from. You just want to be anywhere except in this. So I starved myself, I over exercised, I drank loads of alcohol, which is not good, especially when you're not eating enough. It's going to destroy your stomach. So be very wary of that. Sometimes I'm amazed I'm still alive, to be honest with you. Um, and sometimes I struggle to take good enough care of myself because I feel very shit. So it's like passive suicidality, if that makes sense, where you're literally thinking, I'm not going to actively take or end my own life, but I'm certainly not going to do anything to preserve it, where you're drinking too much or smoking or eating terribly. And I do that as well because I think, well, fuck it, at least I'm not actively trying to kill myself. But it will end your life earlier, and I need to definitely get on top of that because I'm feeling those really low feelings in the last couple of weeks, and they're starting to really weigh on me. But talking to my mates from the CFT, O'Shane and Izzy, has already helped me and getting out, going to the awards night. It's been great, and I put on a brave face, and I don't dare talk about this stuff with a lot of people, but that's why I have this channel to discuss it and give a bit of hope to people out there. The last few weeks have not been very pleasant for me at all. They've been shit, to be honest with you. And I want you to know that it will get better. Just take pleasure in the small things, and enjoy them. It's not an easy life, but we can get through it if we've got good people around us. There's a lot of bad people out there, yeah, and it's hard. I know, exhausting dealing with very bad people who are looking to fuck you over without a second's thought. But we've got good people there too, thankfully, that we need to reach out to and cut the bad people out. Otherwise, you will be fucking miserable. We've just got to cut them out. I beg you, do it, or it'll drag you down. God knows it has with me. So look after yourself. Difficulty with impulse control. And see, this is a difficult one for me, but if I look back on it, kicking a door, causing destruction to property, getting arrested, that's very impulsive. Throwing yourself out in front of a car and arguing with the fella, that's extremely impulsive. Um, Having a row, nearly getting into a proper fight, like full on fight with the lad in a pub, very impulsive. Again, getting thrown out of another one, like it has happened to me a few times. There'll be times where I'm a people pleaser and I try and help everyone, and it's quite contradictory, but at the same time, I can be extremely impulsive and very irrational in my thinking. And like going up to your man in Brad Ireland and confronting him, I would say that's quite impulsive. I wasn't thinking of the consequences. Thought, fuck him, there he is, I've got my chance. You know what you did. And binge drinking is very impulsive. Taking drugs is extremely impulsive. Gambling, and I've done all the above. You know, um, it's acting without thinking of the consequences, really, and I have done that. Yeah, whether I'd like to admit it or not, it's there, and I have to accept it. See, I often think, and it's a weird one, but I think people with BPD are explosive and are angry at everyone all the time. But I'd say there's a lot that's actually retained, and I don't think people talk about that enough. You think of them as people who won't take shit, maybe, which is a good thing. Um, there's a lot of negative stuff. There's a reason they feel like shit and have low self worth. And distorted mind, like there would be quite a distorted way of seeing things. And I definitely have thought a certain way. Like, sure, I was convinced I loved one of my mates' sisters. I was convinced we were meant to be together. I couldn't explain it with anything else until I saw a BPD. It was intense. I felt like I genuinely wanted to marry this girl. I even fucking proposed to her. Jesus. And it was not reciprocated. But at that time, I was convinced we were meant to be together. I couldn't explain it any other way, and I talked about taking my own life if she wouldn't be with me, and that's impulsive and that's manipulative as well. And yeah, whether I want to admit it or not, that's not good behavior, and I think it's very BPD if I'm being honest. Rejection sensitivity, Jesus, I haven't even looked at it, and it seems to just pop up. Yeah, very sensitive. If someone tells me I'm not good enough, or I already feel like I'm not good enough, so them bashing away, saying it again. If my dad used to tell me I didn't play well in a football game or a rugby game, I would be crushed because I wanted him to be impressed and think my son's a tough lad. And if I didn't get that, I'd feel absolutely crushed. Hated it. And so yeah, definitely, I used to feel so bad if I was rejected and if I didn't stay with a certain friend group. Oh, it was heartbreaking for me. I couldn't deal with it. I've gotten a lot better with it now, but before I couldn't deal with the thought of losing in anything. I just was so insecure that if I lost, done. I couldn't deal with the thought of losing something because I'd be so embarrassed with myself. It sounds quite narcissistic, but it was the fact that I would feel so shit to begin with. If I lost in something, I would just feel absolutely worthless for weeks on end. You can't imagine that feeling unless you've been through it. But I understand how it can come across as narcissistic because I'm so much better than everybody else. If I lose, then this is impossible. Somebody must have cheated. It's not that. I'm telling you now, it's the case where I am worthless. So I'm only good based on what I can contribute to others. So if I look weak, then I'm nothing. I'm absolutely like piece of dog shit on the bottom of your shoe. You know, um, the only way I can say it. Sense of emptiness, yeah. Where and that's where I feel like addiction can creep in because there's a void that needs to be filled because you just feel empty inside where you have nothing. And that's what I feel. It's like, where do I go from here? I don't know. I have everything that I need. I'm really happy. I have a great family and I'm doing well. The house looks nice and we're doing stuff, but yet I still feel empty. And like I said, when I achieved my goal of graduating college, which is the proudest moment of my family's life and mine, um, my mum will say having me, which is nice, isn't it? But for me, it's probably my proudest achievement was graduating college because it was the hardest thing I've done. But then it didn't last. It's like right on to the next thing. You got to get a job now. You got to do all this. No time for enjoying it. You reach your goal of losing the weight that you wanted to lose. Bang, feel like shit. So that's the thing. I felt like shit, so I thought I'm going to eat now. I lost the weight so I can eat. I put on the fucking weight, because it didn't feel good, which is not good either. You eat to fill the void. You drink alcohol to fill the void. You smoke cigarettes to fill the void, which is what I've been doing the last few days, which is not healthy at all. But sometimes it just happens, you know. Um, that empty feeling is terrible because you don't know what you're doing with your life. You don't know what you should start doing. Set goals. This is when it's hard, I find, to plan and set goals because you don't know the pit in your stomach, the empty feeling. It's just like a void that needs to be filled. But what do you fill it with? Usually unhealthy stuff, don't you? And that just adds to everything. Like that just amplifies the negative shit tenfold. Paranoid thinking. I've actually been told by bosses in work, friends, that I'm extremely paranoid. Thought it was quite shitty of someone to say that to you, but what? Yeah, I can be quite paranoid that people are talking about me behind my back, and in a lot of cases they fucking were. But I'm always looking around to see, and again, looks kind of narcissistic, but it's because people were doing it. People were making comments about me behind my back or telling me that I was weird or making fun of me, taking the piss out of me. So I think there's a reason behind that and quite a rational one because people were genuinely trying to piss me off and rile me up and saying stuff, throwing stuff to annoy me. And then when I snapped, I was the worst in the world for losing my temper and having inappropriate anger. That's usually always been a reason I've gotten angry. Very rare that there's not a reason. But yeah, paranoid that the boss is talking about me, that people in work don't like me. People in college were saying stuff about me that they thought I was stupid for asking a particular question. The lads in the rugby team didn't think I was capable. All these things, and yeah, it fucks you up. It really does. And then nice one to finish on. Shame. Shame. Yeah. Shame is definitely something that you have where you're just, I'm ashamed of myself, but I feel guilty. Shame is usually how you feel about yourself. Guilt is how you feel about an incident, where you feel like I could have and I should have done this. Shame is more of a general sense of I'm a terrible person, more so than I should have acted this way in this situation, which would be guilt. Shame is I am a fucking piece of shit. I am a terrible person. I can't provide for my family. I can't look after my wife. I can't do anything right. I'm terrible at my job, you know, and it will grind you down if you let it. And I've been feeling so much shame about how I acted in a situation, how I didn't act in another one. And I feel like that's the thing with my family that I feel like has really messed me up is that they've made me feel like I should do one thing, but then I do another. And my mom will tell me she's happy 1 minute and then she'll be really upset and say, "Oh, I shouldn't have done this and this was a bad idea by me." And I feel like, but I asked you, I asked you if you were okay, and I made sure you were all right. And you told me you were. That's why I kept asking, and that's why I keep asking. I need a lot of reassurance, because I will worry a lot, and I'm a big fucking worrier. If I don't get a lot of look at my hair, if I don't get a lot of reassurance, I get very anxious. So, because I feel shame that I didn't act the appropriate way, and then I'll be extremely anxious, which is horrible. I feel like I just didn't do the right thing. Um, the shame kicks in when I feel like I was a coward in a situation and I didn't act when I should have. Then on the flip side, I'll feel guilty over a particular incident where I usually don't feel like I'm an aggro bastard that just loses the plot for nothing. I feel more so like I didn't act. That's why shame is what led me to confront your man at the Grad Ireland situation. I was like, I'm a bad brother. I've failed my brother. I feel like Daniel Day Lewis. I've abandoned my child. In There Will Be Blood. I've abandoned my child. Shame is what led me to do what I did, big time. Because I feel like I'm ashamed of myself for how I failed to act before. And I have to act differently this time. I have to do something. I've got to grow a pair of balls and fucking act. So then being given out to for doing that, I felt like I grew a pair of balls and I did the right thing. But then I get given out to for it. So then I'm ashamed of that. But then I'm angry because I think I was ashamed of myself for not doing anything, and now I'm ashamed of myself for doing something. You know, and I feel like you cannot have borderline personality disorder if we're going to use that as the diagnosis without a lot of push and pull. And I feel like that is a really key element to it. You don't know if you're coming or going. You're either too generous or you're too confrontational, and I feel like it can seem like they can take advantage of people who are nice and vulnerable and caring, but then allow people who are extremely narcissistic and shitty people to talk to them like crap and still, get away with it. Like girl that I worked with in the chipper, she me and her, like, I just kind of felt like she wasn't taking my advice or listening to me. And she allowed people to treat her terribly, and I have a sneaking suspicion she's borderline because bipolar doesn't explain a lot of the symptoms, but she will allow people to take advantage of her. She'll have extreme, highs and lows, but she paid for a lot of stuff for her fella that she should not have paid for, and a girlfriend I don't think should ever be put in that situation, but she tolerated it. Whereas with me, she'll say stuff and, talk down to me or slag me off, and I'm like, I've been nothing but nice to you. And then if I get a bit mad, I'm the worst in the world, and I'm kind of thinking, but hey, hold on a second. I've got this and so do you. So what's going on here? Maybe my way of saying it is distorted. Maybe, yeah, willing to accept that because that's part of the condition. But because I'm nice and cared, I get to hear all the shit and all the, the slagging off. Whereas your man gets treated like a god and he's treating you terribly. But you put up with it. You accept it. You've even asked for my advice and I've told you he's taking you for a fucking ride, not the ride. But he's taking your money, and he keeps demanding more and more. And it's like he's a cheapskate. He needs to cop on to himself and stop asking you to pay for everything. So it's contradictory illness, you know. But I feel like because someone with borderline, if they meet someone who's very assertive and assure themselves, that gives them comfort knowing that I found my caregiver. And that's something I've heard of a borderline as well. Someone to mind me and look after me because I can't do it myself. I can't self-soothe is the thing I've heard. And that makes sense. You know, you're kind of like looking for someone to fulfill you, but you've got to do it yourself. And I'm saying that to myself. You know, that's why I'm worried with Diana because I don't want her to have to pick up the slack for me. That's something I'm very anxious about. Gives me a lot of wonderful, lovely shame. Anyone remember in Big Mouth, the shame wizard, David Hewlett, aka Professor Lupin in Harry Potter? Yeah, but I feel like, guys, that is a good place to wrap up. That has been a deep dive, and it's been something I feel like is long overdue now. But BPD is something I've wanted to get to now. It's something that I'm not sure if I have. I've been told I've traits of it anyway, which I think we can definitely say I do have. But the whole condition, maybe not. We don't know. I need to go. I was kind of told that I had the traits. I was like, okay, we're gonna further discuss this, or is that it? We're done. And nothing's come from it since. I had a meeting with psychiatrist here in my local mental health facility, Tara House, and it's just, oh, how's your mood? How's your job? Are you searching for jobs? And oh, no wonder you're frustrated because you're not getting any, blah, blah, blah. What's the medication like? Are you taking medication? Yeah. So it's all the same shit. It literally feels like when I'm, the Joker sitting in your one's office and she's just not listening to anything he's saying, and it's pointless, to be honest. The counsellor that I was seeing, I can't get in contact with her for some reason. So what the fuck that's all about, I don't know. I missed a few appointments with her because I was so busy doing other things. I mixed my times up because I was trying to stay active. But yeah, guys, I should go to bed. I'm getting quite exhausted here. So I hope that has been interesting to you. As you said at the start, let me know topics that you want discussed and I'll go into them. All right. Thanks, guys. See you later. Slán go fóill.